Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senapataratna. Grab your favorite drink, get yourself a snack, and we'll get started. I actually had to take a breath there because I'm like, you may need a couple snacks. Let's go. So today I have tea in Texas, Big Tex English breakfast black tea. Thank you, Joni. It's fabulous. And I have Reese's filled pretzels. These are a game changer. I'm not a really big fan of Reese's peanut butter cups, but I like the peanut butter inside, and you put that inside of a pretzel. Oh my goodness. Anyway, let's get real. I am working through the word imperfect this year. Learning how to not be perfect, learning how to let things go, learning how to what is enough for me. Like that's kind of what I'm working through. And it has been an interesting year so far. I mean, we're not super far in. We're far enough to know that things need to change and maybe we need to tweak things. But this morning I was doing some worship and just kind of, your head is going 1,000 miles an hour. Like that is really my biggest problem. I call it my tabs. Like on your computer, you have all these tabs at the top, and every one of those tabs represents something. And when I'm looking for hotels or Airbnbs or anything like that, there are like 50 tabs on my computer, and then I don't remember which tab represents what, and it gets super confusing. And honestly, that is normally my brain. Like I have all these tabs open and I'm not sure which tab I'm supposed to pay attention to. And they're all screaming, hey, I'm here and I have important information that you need to think about or you need to do. Or And so I thought I would just come on and tell you a couple of the tabs or questions that are running through my mind that I don't know where to find answers for, and I'm feeling very overwhelmed. Number one, I'm reading through the Gospels right now. And, I've gone through them a couple times, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and God's having me do different things. So at one point, I read all the Gospels in one translation, and then I read them in another one. And then I felt like I was supposed to read like the last bit of every one, kind of the Garden of Gethsemane to the resurrection of Christ. Like kind of read that in every one of the books. And my question is I'm not 100% sure that I'm fully understanding why some people skip some of my favorite parts of Jesus's life and write about other ones that I'm like, well, there we are. So is this kind of an interesting, I'm like going, well, why didn't they talk about the woman with the issue of blood here? That was the most important. I know that's not, but that's what's running through my head. And I'm going, these four men that wrote these books, and I want to dive deeper and I want to understand this. And so I'm actually going to make a spreadsheet. Guys, I am going to make a spreadsheet that goes through and I can see everything tangibly in one place because I'm feeling very overwhelmed by because it wasn't until this year, which is quite embarrassing to say, that I realized that the birth of Jesus and Bethlehem is only in 2 of the books. That seems to be pretty important. Like that's the origin story, right? Anyway, and it's only in 2 of the books. So I'm like, I'm going to make a spreadsheet. Second question running through my head. I have more than I'm probably going to get to on this podcast. Second question. We're having an open house for my 18-year-old daughter who's now a senior in high school and she's going to graduate. And I remember my open house very vividly. It was such a really fun time for me. And I have been looking forward to her open house since the day I got married. I was like, I'm going to have children and I cannot wait because I love throwing parties. They are my favorite thing to do. I'm not great at them. They stress me out to the core, but I like them afterwards. That's so weird, but it's the truth. And so I'm like, okay, here's a couple variables you need to know. Number one, Kevin and I both have very small families. My mom is an only child, and so I don't even have cousins on that side. And all my cousins come from my dad's side, and there's an estrangement there. I haven't actually seen most of them since I was maybe 10. So not big families. We attend a really big church, which I love but we are never there. So I don't have a ton of relationships. My daughter is very quiet. And so, do you plan for 10 people for this open house, or do you plan for 100? Or I have no idea. Like last night I was on the phone with my mom at 11:30 at night, and I'm like, "Mom, how many cupcakes do we get for an open house that we have no idea if anyone's even going to show up? Like, what if it's us 5 and no more? And that's including the dogs. Like, what are we going to do?" And so that is running through my mind all the time. Like, how many napkins do we need? Does everybody take 2 napkins? Does everybody take no napkins? Like, this is like constantly running through my mind. And so I just thought if I told you, maybe first of all, you'd have answers and you'll put some comments and let me know what you plan for, and maybe you're in the same situation. You know, if you're super popular, kudos to you. We are not. And so I'm like, maybe we plan for 50 people. I don't know. I have no idea. All right. My third question. You go through social media, right? And have you ever wanted to ask a blunt question that you know you're not allowed to ask to someone? What would that question be? Like, if you could ask one person on your social media page anything and they would not be offended by what you said, would that, what would you ask? I actually have an acquaintance that I really don't even know. They probably have don't even know who I am. And all of a sudden there is a new child in their pictures. And I'm like, where did the child come from? Is it a friend? Is it a cousin? Like, I just want to ask the question, but you can't because that's rude. Like, have you ever had those? Like, I don't know. Another question that seems so minute and weird. Am I the only person that puts their stuff to go to one of the thrift stores in your area in your car and you drive it around for at least a month just to make sure that you didn't need it? Am I the only one that does that? I went out this weekend with someone and we're in my car and I'm like, don't mind the big box in the back of things I'm about to donate. I just kind of need to make sure I don't need them. Because I tend to get rid of things that then I'm like, where was that? And I have to then go and repurchase it from said store that I donated it to. Yes, I have done that. It's quite embarrassing, but I have done that. Because I tend to think, I'm never going to use this. And so now I kind of have a policy. It's an unwritten policy, but it is a in my brain policy. It's one of the tabs that are open about like making sure that I don't get rid of something so I drive it around for a while. I feel like we have so many tabs in our lives and there are so many things always constantly bombarding and coming after us and that steal our peace. Does that make sense? I hope it does to you, because I yesterday was talking with my daughter and she was feeling a smidge overwhelmed. It's Sunday. She always feels a little overwhelmed on Sunday because it's the school starting back up and life has to, get back to normal and you're no longer able to just sit down and rest. You're running and running and running. And I had said, because I'm listening through the Gospels, and that morning I had listened to Jesus talking when the disciples went and grabbed the grain and started eating the wheat on the Sabbath, and they were like, they can't harvest on the Sabbath. And he was like, the Sabbath was made for man, not for God. And I realized that my theology, I'm not a theologian. I have not broken the Bible down and I don't know the Greek and all that kind of things. But what it spoke to me was God gave me a gift of rest, and I quite often make it into something else. I make it into something that it doesn't need to be. He's like, I am giving you the Sabbath to rest and to recuperate and to really find something that you need. And we ignore that and we make it into like almost a have to do list sometimes, or this is my day to get all of my chores done. And you know what? We all live that kind of lifestyle sometimes, that we have to get things done. Like food, you have to make it. Like maybe you don't. I actually used to do meat, like deli meat and slice up cheese and some fruit and crackers. And that's what we'd have on Sunday nights because I just needed to not have to cook one night of the week. I needed that rest. I actually don't do it anymore, more because I realize when I do that, I eat more than if anyway, doesn't really matter. You don't care. All of a sudden, I'm like going down this crazy, this has been a follow Jenny down the rabbit hole kind of podcast. But we lose our peace because we have all these tabs open. And honestly, I am trying with my new word of the year, imperfect, how to balance all of these tabs and all of these super wild questions that pop in my head that don't make any sense to anybody else and no one else is thinking about. And to be fair, really don't matter. Like, I understand that most of those questions do not matter in the grand scheme of life. They are curiosity things and they get me riled up sometimes, and I get very anxious about things that I don't need to be anxious about. And that is the really key for me this year, is finding God's peace in the midst of all of my tabs. Like, which tab is God's peace? And what I am finding is it's not a tab. It's an overall computer. It's an overall, the Lord is my peace, and I can have 100 tabs open and I can still take a second or 30 seconds and feel Him in charge. And I hope that you, as you kind of run through your day, and I hate to say that we don't, but like everybody runs through their day. You almost get to the end of the day and it's such a crash because you've run all day long. We treat our lives as if they're sprints, not marathons. And I, this year, have really learned to run my life as a marathon, which means that I am not pushing as hard as maybe everybody else is, which is just fine. I am running at a much slower pace. I am running in a world that maybe everybody else is like super busy, and all of a sudden I look around going, oh, I'm actually a little bored today. You know, I have really tried to mainstream a lot of my life, and it's not perfect, and there are days that I'm busy, and there are days that I'm anxious and overwhelmed. But I am finding that the Lord's peace is with me everywhere if I'm looking for it. Does that make sense? Like, I really don't look for His peace very often, but when I do, it's there. And so that is what my encouragement to you is. As you have all these tabs open and you have lists that are a mile long to get done, and your kids are now it's spring sports and there's all this stuff to do. And I'm getting ready for graduation and she's going to move out. And we've got all these things that are huge. And you start looking at other people's lives, right? And you're like, yesterday I looked and on social media, one of her girlfriends went on a senior trip. And I was like, yeah, we can't afford a senior trip. Like, that's just not going to happen for her. And I started feeling really bad, like, oh my goodness, I'm not able to give her what she needs. And all of a sudden I looked up at my television and I have screensavers on my TV. And the first 3 pictures that popped up were of her on trips because we travel. Like, come on, Jen. It doesn't need to be a specific thing, but you feel guilty and you feel overwhelmed and you feel like you're a failure when you look around at other people's lives. You just do. When you look at what everybody else has, if they have a perfect marriage, if they have tons of money, if they have perfect children, look at how successful they are at work, look at how successful they are at church, like their ministry is bigger than my ministry. If you start comparing your lives to everyone else, and that's what your tabs are doing, is comparing everyone else to you, you are never going to find peace. You are never going to find that contentment in your own life. The only way you're going to find that is by taking a moment and looking for it. And trust me, I really believe that if you're looking for God's peace, it is there. And He comes in and He holds you and He takes care of you. And He says, you know what, honey? You are not on your own. And even if you're a man, you are not on your own. It is just not that way. When you stop and you take a moment to look for His peace, it will be there. Well, that is all I have for you this week. This was kind of a squirrel kind of a week where you're like, wow, Jenny's gone crazy. And you know what? That is life. Life is just sometimes that wild. And I just want you to know that God loves you and He's got peace for you. Even if you don't have a 30-minute block to block off to say, Lord, I want to feel your peace. Sometimes I'm not saying sometimes, quite often, I have been in a line at a grocery store or at like a Walmart or Target. And in that line, I have gone, Lord, I need to feel your peace right now because this is crazy. Especially because I don't like spending money. So I always have to like seek God a little bit harder right there. And He always shows up. And He will always show up for you. In the midst of your trials and your chaos, He will show up. Well, you can find me at Real Life with Jenny on Instagram, Facebook, and Be Real. You can support this podcast by going buy me a coffee/Real Life with Jenny if you're interested in that. You can also go to christconnection.cc/Jenny. Yay! All of my info is there. You can actually book a service there. So that's kind of a fun new feature. Thank you so much for listening. I am really blessed to be able to do this. This is such a amazing opportunity, and I just thank you for listening. Especially if you've listened all the way through on this podcast, you kind of deserve an extra sticker. Like, give yourself a reward. Get that extra snack today. But as you're walking through, I just pray that you find God's peace, that He shows up in those moments if you look for Him, and that you will begin to live in His peace, even amongst all the tabs in your life. Have a great day.